Welcome back. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down the Cincinnati Bengals 3-round mock draft and all the players that we selected for them. But before we do that, be sure to like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified whenever we create new Tracy Take content. We're doing 3-round mock drafts for every single team in the NFL. We will also be doing multiple 7-round mock drafts as well, leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft. So in order to do that and help us reach our goal of getting to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the Super Bowl, we only need about 15 or 16 so per video for this 32-team 3-round mock draft. Be sure to like, subscribe, as it's the easiest way to help out our channel grow. So Ryan, pull the slides here. To kind of orient you a little bit of what you're seeing here. Obviously, the pick in orange, that is the Bengals pick. That's who we selected for them. But we did include a couple picks before and after the players they selected, just to provide some context. Also, then, to the right, you'll also see some other potential options and the teams that selected them and what pick that was at. So we ended up going with Amarius Mims here, the tackle out of Georgia. A lot of different routes I feel the Bengals could go do, and I think a lot of it's going to dictate on what happens to them in free agency. I do think that this is I don't even want to say sneaky receiver spot. Even if they do sign T. Higgins, I do believe that there's potential some first-round receivers that they could go at just to kind of keep that three-headed monster, of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They could potentially even add on like another legit receiver weapon, especially then too, like if someone like Brian Thomas Jr. falls to them. But we did end up going with Amarius Mims here, still just trying to beef up that offensive line and just keep protecting Joe Burrow, who is now being paid pretty handsomely by the organization. So, Brian, I want to throw it over to you here. What's your thoughts on Amarius Mims? You saw him play live when you went to the Tech game when UGA came in. What's your overall thoughts on this player?
Yeah, so Amarius Mims, very raw talent. But with that being said, I think there's a lot to work with here. He's just a super great athlete, extremely large, has elite length, elite size, just all around an elite prospect. It's just I don't think when you look at him on film, he has it all put together yet. He's not as developed as Broderick Jones was last year, and Broderick Jones went 14th overall and was considered largely a very raw prospect that needed a lot of development. And Amarius Mims isn't even quite at that level. However, just his physical tools alone are going to put him, I think, in the top 20. His physical tools are even better than Broderick Jones's were. And he's a fantastic guy, quick feet, good hands, just needs some refinement. I think if you look at this Bengals offensive line too, they invested in Orlando Brown. Jonah Williams has been their right tackle. He's been in and out of the lineup with injuries over the last few seasons. And also now I think has voiced his displeasure in wanting out of Cincinnati just for the fact of playing time and then going at different directions with the tackle position. So I think with him most likely out in Cincinnati, I really think that getting a guy like Amarius Mims to come in, you're going to have him for 5 years to play next to Orlando Brown. And then I think eventually after he plays in the league for a little while, could switch over and take over at the left tackle spot once when Orlando Brown Jr. is done there in Cincinnati. So overall, I really like this pick. Other directions, I mean, Troy Franklin, I think, would be a good compliment. He could be a Tyler Boyd replacement if they do decide to move on from him this offseason. He is getting a little bit older, and with having to re-sign T. Higgins and some other players, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of who gets left out in that mix of players. So,
yeah, it'll probably be Tyler Boyd. But I agree as well. It's a lot of different ways that they could go here. I could potentially even see if Jersey Newton falls. DJ Reader is going to be a free agent, so I have to – and he's also unfortunately had a pretty major injury at late into the season, so I have to kind of see how that might impact what he's going for and if the Bengals want to re-sign him. So a lot of different ways the Bengals could go here in this first round, and I do think that is going to dictate them what they do in their second round. So, for example, we had them go focus on the trenches on both sides here, their first two picks. Ended up going with Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle on the other side of the ball, mentioning that DJ Reader is hitting free agency. And so I think that's going to be is it DJ or BJ Reader?
DJ.
It is DJ. Okay,
yeah,
perfect. But with him hitting free agency and having the knee injury, they're going to want to maintain that the beef up on the inside of the interior of the defensive line, because you still have Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, and then they also drafted Miles Murphy last year as well on the outside. So you're going to want to maintain the beefiness on the inside. But if they decide to go a different direction here, I think there's a lot of good options here, depending on if there's some good receivers that fall to them, or if they want to address the secondary as well. What's your overall thoughts kind of on this approach for the Bengals in these first 2 picks that we decided to go with, and beefing up on the offensive line, the defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, to address this pick specifically, I think you look at what they have done successfully over the last few seasons that they didn't do well this year on the defensive side of the ball, and that was really stop the run. And the big thing over the previous 2 seasons over this year is they were able to stop the run with 4 and really like consistently be able to drop 7 in coverage, still stop the run and get decent pressure with that front. And for me, I really like this pick because I think it helps in both areas in that front 4. He's a good run stuffer, good pass rusher. I think he could come in and fill in the rotation immediately and just be an all-around solid player for them. They definitely need help. I think on that front, they had a big drop-off. I believe they were one of the worst run defense teams this year. And granted, part of that was due to the Joe Burrow injury. That defense was on the field more. But they didn't quite figure things out how they had in years past. So,
yeah, I will say it looks like they were about 25th in run defense, 26, giving up 2,145 yards. So, yeah, that's going to be a big thing, especially then as well. They had a younger secondary, but definitely like showing good signs of improvement. So I think that they could address that here. We don't end up addressing it in this 3-round mock. We'll get to that next pick here in a second. But I agree with you, though, that for the style of play that they want to have, they want to be able to pin their ears back, and they don't want to have to be playing from behind and have teams like be able to control the clock. So in order to do that, if that does happen, you need to have that guy that can beef up the interior, the defensive line, be that run stopper, make them have to throw the ball. Because they do have an athletic secondary. They're younger, but I think that's something that could develop, potentially even something maybe similar to what the Chiefs have started to develop defensively. So let's move on, though, to their next pick. And this is honestly probably one of my favorite picks, I think, of the entire mock draft that we did. When we're sitting here, this 3rd pick, we're trying to really figure out what the Bengals could improve on. And we could have gone like with secondary. There's some good secondary options that we felt were there. And I do also like some of the potential options that you'll see on the right. But Cade Stover, though, I think that he can come in. He's an Ohio boy. I think he can come in and instantly improve that receiving room as well. It's like, let's say they re-sign T. Higgins, but don't sign Tyler Boyd. They're not able to get an elite receiver in the first couple of rounds that they like. I think getting Cade Stover here, I think he can come in and really beef up that tight end room immediately. He's a great pass catcher. I think he will be a great toy that Joe Burrow likes to play with overall. So what's your thoughts on this pick here, and what are some of the other routes do you think that they can go?
Yeah, so for me, Cade Stover is one of the better receiving tight ends in this class. Just a really great athlete, played with some high-level quarterbacks at Ohio State. And for me, I mean, just a really solid pass-catching tight end. And I think when you look at what Joe Burrow was able to do with a guy like Hayden Hurst, that's really missing from this year's arsenal. Granted, the sample size was limited, but I think Joe Burrow really does prefer to have a nice kind of safety valve tight end option in his repertoire of offensive weapons. Other routes, I do think solidifying the interior of that offensive line. They do have Ted Karras at center right now. However, his true position is actually left guard. And so I think if they could kick him over to left guard, draft Cedric Von Prawn from Georgia, I think that would be a big win for them as well. And then also maybe getting a little bit younger at the running back position. I think this is where we'll see a good value at a lot of the running back spots. Jonathan Brooks is one. Blake Corum might go maybe into the 2nd round, the early 3rd round. And then Ray Davis was another guy we had going about probably like 15 picks later, but just a really talented running back out of Kentucky there as well. So like, I think there's multiple routes they could go here. I do prefer the tight end route. It's a different type of pass catcher if they end up moving on from one in the offseason that's currently on their roster. So, but I think bringing in a guy like Cade Stover, he would make a big impact early on, just in this offense overall as a kind of a possession tight end.
Yeah. It's I think you killed 2 birds with one stone there with this pick. And so let's just quickly recap here. So we ended up going with Amarius Mims with the first overall pick. Sorry about that. It should be the 18th overall pick there. But then going with Chris Jenkins and then Cade Stover there. So I think that it is all in all a good draft. I think they're really focusing on some key areas that they're looking to improve in. So in general, though, Ryan, I think that this is a very unique class. I think the Bengals, are good in a lot of areas, but there's definitely ways and members, I think, of this draft class that they can improve on moving forward. And so,
Yeah.
any final thoughts on this 3
The,
round?
the way I look at the Bengals roster right now is they're either good in that position or they're young in that position. And I think that's a good spot to be in, especially coming into a draft as talented as this one, because you're going to be getting day one contributors into the third round. They're going to be like part-time contributors most likely, but you're going to be getting day one contributors into the third, fourth, and maybe even the fifth round just with like the depth in this draft class. And I think that's going to benefit a team like the Bengals. They're going to really kind of solidify the floor of that team and then kind of get to build up from there, especially if Joe Burrow coming back from injury. I really like what the Bengals have going for them into 2024. So,
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Bengals 3-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let us know what you would do differently. And on that, we will see you guys next time.